Good morning, everyone. It is the 14th of April, and as you can tell, I am sort of okay. I at least have a voice, so that's always helpful when you're dealing with the icky crud flu stuff. Good morning, Wolfram. I hope you are having a great day, and thank you for all of your mod duties. Alice G, good morning. And Christine, good morning. Greedy Bloke and Fedorowski, Squid Pro Quo, everyone. So, well, it looks like we have some updates on all of the, aviation tragedies that happened in New York already. So, our first bit of update is that the New York helicopter tours company has shut down after the Hudson River crash that killed 6 people, according to the FAA. They have closed doors. You can no longer get, a helicopter tour around New York City from this company, which I don't know who would buy a tour from this company after that, but the Big Apple sightseeing company involved in the Hudson River helicopter crash that killed 6 is shutting down operations immediately. The Federal Aviation Administration announced Sunday night, 3 days after the deadly disaster. A chopper operated by New York Helicopter Tours plunged into the frigid waters off of Manhattan Thursday, killing a Siemens executive, his wife, and their 3 young children who were visiting from Spain, and a pilot who was also a Navy veteran. Now, New York Helicopter Tours, the company involved in the deadly crash, is shutting down their operations immediately. We will continue to support the NTSB's investigation, and additionally, the FAA will be launching an immediate review of the tour operator's license and safety record. Now, the FAA did not make clear if the business would be shut down permanently and did not return an email, seeking clarity Sunday night. When it reached by the phone, New York Helicopter Tours CEO Michael Roth confirmed that his company was ceasing operations at the demand of the federal agency. "It wasn't my choice. The FAA did that," he told the Post. When asked if there was a chance to return to operations, Roth replied, "Maybe, I don't know." Now, a day earlier, a company representative said that the business was not operating until further notice. New York Helicopter Tours said it was fully cooperating with federal officials probing the crash in the statement on its website. So, again, I am not sure what's going to come out of this with NTSB. The fact that it was shut down means that possibly, and this is just my speculation, they have already seen some very alarming things in sort of the maintenance logs that made them feel very uncomfortable with letting them continue. That's my speculation. I don't know. That being said, hopefully we can get some answers about this. Again, making people feel more comfortable about flying is kind of what the FAA and NTSB are supposed to be doing. So hopefully we will be getting some answers. Oh, and I am feeling a little bit better. I am Dayquiled and, sinus medicined up. So I think I'm going to be okay, I hope. Well, and in a segue that who would have thunk it, but apparently the Reds were also fighting the Greys, also Star Wars. So apparently, Ronald Reagan and aliens helped us defeat the Soviet Union. And honestly, who didn't think that was the case anyway? But declassified Cold War era CIA files are detailing Soviet clashes with aliens whose witnesses said they turned their soldiers to stone. Okie dokie. I mean, I didn't have, the Russians getting invaded by, little gray men and turning them into stone is how we won, the Cold War, but I'm willing to listen to the story. A declassified Cold War era file from the CIA has gone viral over its coverage of a supposed clash between Soviet soldiers and a UFO, whose passengers reportedly turned the troops into stone before blasting off. Now, following the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, the CIA acquired a 250-page KGB report recounting events that transpired after a platoon fired on a flying saucer over Ukraine. Well, it's always Ukraine. Even the aliens want a piece of Ukraine. Makes sense. The report included eyewitness accounts and pictures of the aftermath, in which one American agent described pictures of, a revenge on the part of extraterrestrial creatures, a picture that makes one's blood freeze. Interesting. Now, the report claims that the Soviets were conducting a training exercise in Ukraine and spotted a low flying spaceship in the form of a saucer soaring above their heads. So they did what any calm and rational person would do when encountering a space alien. They fired a rocket launcher. They too had played Resident Evil, and they realized that the only way to deal with things is with a rocket launcher. Now, they did fire a surface-to-air missile, which did strike the UFO and sent it crashing to the ground. So there you go. It fell from the Earth not far away, and 5 short humanoids with large head and black eyes emerged from it, the report claims. After escaping the debris of their ruined ships, the beings huddled together and merged into a single object that acquired a spherical shape, the surviving, soldiers recalled. In a few seconds, the sphere grew much bigger and exploded by flaring up with extremely bright light. At that very instant, 23 soldiers who had watched the phenomenon turned into stone poles, the report says. Only 2 soldiers who had stood in the shade were less exposed to the luminous explosion and survived. Now, the KGB allegedly took custody of the petrified soldiers in the ruined spacecraft, which were transported to a secret base near Moscow. Well, there you go. Now, the Soviet scientists found out that whatever the light was, it had somehow transformed the soldiers' living cells into a substance that was identical to that of limestone. If the KGB file corresponds to reality, this is an extremely menacing case, the CIA concluded. The aliens possessing such weapons and technologies go beyond all our assumptions. They can stand up for themselves if they're attacked. Now, the CIA document was declassified in 2000 and originally covered by Canadian Weekly World News and the Ukrainian paper Holos Ukraini, but has remained of interest by UFO aficionados and was even featured on Joe Rogan's podcast last year. So there you go. Even the aliens wanted Ukraine. I mean, could we possibly see the petrified, soldiers? On to another bit of absurdity, but apparently, well, a big old naked lady is not as classy as some people thought it would be. I know you're shocked. A massive nude woman sculpture in a blue city is sparking, well, various reactions after unveiling her nudist, just nakedness, I guess, just everywhere. A 45-foot statue of a nude woman is the newest and tallest resident of San Francisco's Encombardo, or look, some kind of plaza. Now, the artwork, titled Our Evolution, was unveiled with music, lights, and performance arts on Thursday, but no clothing. A courtesy of a public nonprofit, Illuminate, now designed to glow at night and appear to breathe via internal motors, the statue was meant to represent strength and compassion. Instead, it sparked backlash, internet memes, and questions about the city's priorities. Originally created for Burning Man in 2015 by sculptor Marco Concrane, the stainless figure now stands outside the Ferry Building, casting a long and anatomically detailed shadow over the city, where fewer and fewer people seem impressed by the spectacle. While some see the statue as empowering, many San Franciscans see it as another example of the city misreading the room. Social media lit up after a video by influencer Colin Rugg went viral showing a cherry picker awkwardly being hoisted between the statue's legs during installation. Yeah, they had a picture of a man kind of nose deep into her crotchular area to fix it. I mean, I don't, why? Nothing says reviving downtown like a 45-foot naked woman getting rear end surgery, wrote one user, and another deadpanned. This picture kind of embodies the spirit of San Francisco, head up an ass. The statue was installed just blocks from an area dealing with visible homelessness and open air drug use, along with boarded up storefronts. While the art world might call it, juxtaposition, many residents are just fed up. So, yeah, basically, we spent a bunch of money on this naked lady statue when, we can't deal with anything else. But there you go. If you live in San Francisco, you have a new naked lady you can go see. I don't know why that's a selling point, but there you go. San Francisco, just for you. What in the hell has gone wrong with people? I did not think I would put this on my bingo card. But a suspect has been arrested in the arson attack on Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro's residence as his family slept inside. Well, juxtaposition. I can barely say it. Oh, yeah, that's right. You have one more day to get your taxes done if you haven't done it yet. But and I know I don't generally do political stories, but holy goodness, someone trying to burn the governor's mansion is a bit of a headline. I'm glad they got the suspect, but what the hell were you doing? Pennsylvania State Police have arrested a Harrisburg man for the arson attack on Governor Josh Shapiro and his family that sent them fleeing from the governor's residence on the first night of Passover. What jackasses. Cody Balmer, Cody Balmer, 38 of Harrisburg, is expected to face charges of attempted murder, terrorism, aggravated arson, and aggravated assault against an enumerated person, authorities said. Now, Shapiro is Jewish, not Jewish. Jewish, and he became visibly emotional as he spoke about the 2 a.m. attack on his home as both he and his family slept inside. And as you can see, it's pretty burnt. If he was trying to terrorize our family, our friends, the Jewish community who joined us for Passover Seder in that room last night, hear me on this. We celebrate our faith last night proudly. In a few hours, we will celebrate our second Seder of Passover, he said. The entire home was safely evacuated and no one was hurt, Shapiro wrote on X. Now, Balmer was allegedly carrying a homemade incendiary device or multiple of them as he snuck onto the gated compound that is the official residence of the governor by jumping the fence. Now, investigators believe that the attack was targeted, but they haven't determined a specific motive. Now, the police did not release any more details on his actions yet. The Pennsylvania State Police will be conducting arson, attempted homicide, and aggravated arson investigations, according to Colonel Christopher Paris, the state police commissioner. Now, all of this has happened. Now, Governor Shapiro was kind of on tap to be Kamala Harris's pick as vice president. So it does make this sort of interesting to see if there's any links about that there as well. However, given the timing and when this happened, it does seem like there might be some anti-Semitic sort of leanings to this. While thanking the public for their well wishes in the wake of the attack, Shapiro took a stand against political violence. This type of violence is not okay. This is the kind of violence that is becoming far too common in our society, and I don't give a damn if it's coming from one particular side or another, directed at one particular party or another, or one particular person or another. It's not okay, and it has to stop. We have to be better than this, and we all have a responsibility to be better, Shapiro said. In the spirit of pushing forward, Shapiro asserted that the attack, while it was frightening for his family, did not shake his commitment toward his constituents. Rest assured, I will find a way to work even harder than I did yesterday for the good people of Pennsylvania. So there you go. I do hope that they figure out why this man did this and beef up security. This is incredibly terrifying to happen, to anyone's family at their home. I don't care who you are, don't firebomb people. And, well, it had to be Florida. It had to be Florida, and yes, that's his real name. A man with an interesting moniker was arrested for allegedly threatening employees at a Subway with a knife. And that would be our lovely Florida man. Now, don't be shocked because his name is even better. He's not accused of being on drugs, but a man named Edward Cocaine did allegedly wave a knife at employees after a confrontation at a Florida Subway restaurant. Well, I mean, after that $5 footlong fiasco and Jared, how can Subway recover? Brevard County Sheriff Wayne Ivey posted about the April 5th incident on Facebook. Clearly, this guy, Edward Cocaine, and yes, that is his real name, doesn't know that in Brevard County, if you mess around, you're going to find out the hard way, Ivy wrote. Cocaine, 45, and a friend went to Subway on Merritt Island and felt like he was being treated rudely by employees, a probable cause arrest affidavit said. Now, the friend wanted to leave, but Cocaine allegedly wanted to address the perceived attack on his, honor. The defendant allegedly entered the employee area behind the counter and pushed one employee, raising a knife as if he were about to stab someone, the complaint said. Yes, folks, you read that correctly. He pulled out a knife and gestured as if he was going to injure them all because he didn't like the way they spoke to him and his friend, Ivy quipped. Now, Cocaine's friend restrained him and then the two left the restaurant, per the cops. Using surveillance video, cops identified Cocaine's friend's truck. Deputies went to speak to the friend who identified Cocaine as the perpetrator. And I love how Law and Crime is just using the hell out of this last name because, and again, YouTube, you too. I am saying this because this is this man's given name. I don't want to say a bad, narcotics word. I am not saying it every chance I can in this article. This is news. People need to know about this. Quote, according to Cocaine, it was him in the surveillance video, and while his memory of the incident appeared to be a bit off from what really happened, he did acknowledge that he pulled a knife out and crossed a line of what it was appropriate behavior. I'd say that I completely crossed the line and did dumb stuff that put other lives at risk, Ivy said. Now, the suspect does stand accused of 2 counts of aggravated assault burglary with assault and battery. He has since posted $17,000 on his bond. Well, I guess the cocaine business is great. Cocaine and Sons. It's a family business. His next court date is scheduled for around May the 6th. So, there you are. If we need to see there, we will be able to take that and go right on with that. I need this man on every channel. I need him to have his own YouTube channel. And what in the name? This is how you get final form Jesus out here, y'all. Abducting pastors during Lent. I mean, I didn't think we had to, put on there like don't abduct clergy members during Lent, but apparently that is something that needs to be put out there. A pastor was abducted by gunpoint while delivering a sermon. Now, Gunmen in South Africa have abducted a U.S. missionary from his church as he was delivering a sermon, police and a colleague have said on Friday. Pastor John Sullivan was abducted late Thursday at the Fellowship Baptist Church in Motherwell outside the coastal city of Jabara, in what appeared to be a kidnapping for ransom, a colleague told the Associated Federal Press. Now, kidnappings, including by criminal gangs that target people from whom big ransoms can be demanded, have been increasing in South Africa in recent years. It's alleged that while a sermon was conducted at the church, four armed and masked male subjects entered the church, the police told CBS News. They robbed two cell phones and then took the 45-year-old male pastor with them and fled the scene. Now, a spokesperson for the U.S. State Department told CBS News that they were aware of a kidnapping of a U.S. citizen in South Africa. The agency said that it had no further information to share at this time. Now, Reverend Jeremy Hall, a pastor who was also based in the southeastern city, told the press that the abduction was probably financially related. Police spokeswoman or person, Captain Andre Bashir said that protocol dictated that once a ransom was demanded, the case would be handed over to the Hawks, a specialized police unit that investigates organized crimes, economic crimes, corruption, and other serious crimes. Well, then the Hawks are busy like 24/7. Also, yes, stay out of South Africa for right now. As I understand, he went on to say, there has not been a ransom raised yet, urging anyone with information to come forward. Now, Sullivan was holding a prayer meeting with about 30 people, including his wife and 6 children, when the kidnappers entered. They knew him by name, he said. They took him at gunpoint and forced him into his car and drove off. The abandoned car was recovered about a mile away from the church. Sullivan arrived in South Africa with his family from Tennessee in November of 2018, according to his personal website. We are looking to finish language school soon and plant a church in the Escosa with the Escosa speaking people, he wrote on his site. Now, Sullivan had been on the staff at Fellowship Baptist Church in Maryville, Tennessee since February of 2012. So you do have a lot of this. You do have a lot of rural pastors who go to do missionary work a lot of the time. So this is not something that is going to be out of, kind of the realm of possibility. But there are certain countries that I think critical eye needs to be taken more to where we are sending missionaries. If we cannot guarantee the safety of these missionaries, then we need to maybe not send them there for right now. Or with the understanding that that missionary work is going to require security as well. Because I think there's a big disconnect between what people understand and what people really know is going on in South Africa. Fair point, though, J.K.D. Buck, he knew the risks and he still went over. So I don't know. We will hopefully see if, the State Department can do anything. It does make you wonder if, there's going to be a kind of shift in sort of these crimes now that, maybe there's an America that's willing to, get in and get people back. I don't know. That's a little bit more political than I generally go. But, that's my thought. I do wonder what's going to happen. And hopefully he and his family get some answers. They're going on. I'm not a smarty patootie pants, so I don't know, how to fix South Africa. Hell, I don't even know how to fold a fitted sheet. So I'm not trying to do anything to tell you guys to that. That being said, something I do know a lot about, or at least I do know stuff about true crime, and there has been an update on the Slender Man stabber, who is going to be released from the state hospital, but there are some red flags that are concerning. That's great. Let's let her out with red flags. I'm sure that'll be great. The Wisconsin woman who attempted to kill her 12-year-old classmate to appease the fictional character Slender Man will be released despite the state's claims that there are still red flags concerning her behavior. Now, a judge has ruled that Morgan Geyser, 22, can continue with her planned conditional release from a Wisconsin mental health institute, rejecting a last minute petition from the State Department of Health Services asking for her to remain in custody. Now, the decision comes after failed attempts by Geyser's defense team to have her released. Officials asked the Waukesha County Circuit Judge Michael Brorin to reverse his initial decision after he ordered Geyser's release in January, citing Geyser's relationship with murder memorabilia collector and her interest in violent books. In 2017, Geyser pled guilty to attempted first-degree intentional homicide in the violent stabbing of Peyton Leutner, but claimed she was not responsible due to her mental illness. Now, she told investigators that she had tried to kill Leutner to appease horror character Slender Man and was ultimately found not guilty by reason of mental defect. So, yes, there was always a possibility that she could get out, but these, murderabilia sort of things, these violent books, definitely not a good sign. Now, Geyser's defense team and the state's prosecuting attorney did not immediately respond for, comment. Being found to be mentally ill was as a cause of a crime is a pretty high standard, said Dr. Gail Saltz, a clinical associated professor of psychology at the Weill Cornell Medical College. The standard is an identifiable illness that impacts your ability to understand what you're doing is wrong and that you have the capacity to understand that. That's true regardless of age, so it is a quite high standard. Now, Geyser and her friend, Anissa Weir, who was also 12 at the time, when they lured Leutner into a wooded park during a sleepover in May 2014. Geyser encouraged Weir to stab Leutner 19 times. Now, Leutner miraculously did survive the attack, and Geyser has been held in custody at Winnebago Mental Health Institute for the last 7 years. Now, she was initially sentenced to 40 years in a psychiatric hospital and was permitted to ask the court to consider her conditional release every 6 months. The Wisconsin State Department of Health Services did not respond to Fox News Digital's request for comment. However, health officials did ask, the judge to consider, citing Geyser's relationship with a man who collects murder memorabilia. Prosecutors said that Geyser had failed to inform her therapy team about a violent book that she was reading. Now, Geyser's defense attorney, Tom Cotton, refuted these claims, telling the court that the center's staff members were aware that the collector had visited Geyser 3 times in June 2023, and that she has only read books that were permitted by her care team. Cotton also added that Geyser discovered that the man was selling items that she sent him, and she broke things off. Morgan is not more dangerous today, Cotton said. Borer also listened to testimony from 3 psychologists who initially recommended Geyser to be released during her hearing in January. Now, while Geyser's apparent interest in violent topics concerns prosecutors, experts say that some individuals may gravitate toward materials that offer a controlled way to indulge in their morbid curiosity. This is a gray zone in the sense that many people read violent materials as a way of partaking and thinking about that sort of fantasy material, Salt said. Horror movies existed because many humans have sadistic and masochistic urges that are satisfied by reading or watching material of this sort. Well, now I'm just more creeped out about everyday people than, everyone. I mean, I thought people just like to be scared, but now you're like, well, people are masochists and sadists, and that's why they like Alien. And I just thought we all like to be freaked out. There you go. However, agency officials have argued that Geyser remains a danger to the community, citing the book Rent Boy, which features topics such as murder and selling organs on the black market. Now, prosecutors told the judge they believe it was concerning that Geyser reportedly only disclosed the information when confronted by her care team. The state has real concerns. These things are, quite frankly, just red flags at this point. Waukesha County Deputy District Attorney Abby Nicolte said during a hearing last month, while morbid curiosities may not be normal, for some, experts believe that those with violent pasts could be influenced by materials about their crime. Though it doesn't equal behavior, Salt said. That being said, with someone who has committed the behavior, we do worry that ultimately it will increase their urge to do something that they truly want to do and lead to behavior that is considered problematic. Well, no, duh, which is why are we letting this chick out when she still seems to suffer from the crazy? I mean, I'm not trying to be a butthole. I'm not trying to make fun of mental health. But at some point, can't we admit that this woman creeps me out? And if I didn't want her living next to me, I don't want her living next to you. And if we can't guarantee that she's not going to be in the McDonald's line and someone, didn't give her an extra ranch and she goes nutty, nuttier than a nut log, then I say we can't let her out. Look, I don't care. If she wants to read all of the crazy psycho, stuff, then you stay in the place where we know that you cannot turn those thoughts into actions. You either want to have the crazy gross or, the crazy murder books that you want to have, or you want to be free. Because they're contingent. And as an American populist public member, Sally Q Public here, I don't want her crazy ass moving in next to me. And I don't want that for any of my neighbors. So this seems like we're gambling on safety from people who don't have to live right next to her. Isn't that great? The people that are like, she's fine. They live in gated communities out, Yonderville, and we're going to have to deal with her ass. Isn't that always the way? Now, despite the state's pleas to keep Geyser institutionalized, the judge did determine that she is no longer a danger to society. Her next court appearance is scheduled for April 28th, according to documents that were obtained by the media. There are many people who commit horrible assaults with the intent to kill and serve their time and be evaluated is that they acknowledge their crime, which Geyser clearly has. They fall under all the ingredients that have to do with rehabilitation. We don't have a finding that mental illness was even a factor when they're released into society. So I'm saying that this isn't a totally, unique situation. Now, Ware also pled guilty to being a party to attempted second-degree intentional homicide with a dangerous weapon and was sentenced to 25 years in a mental hospital. Now, in 2021, she was released on the condition that she must live with her father and wear a GPS monitor. Now, attorneys for Ware did not immediately respond to Fox News Digital. You have to think about the victim in this case, too, Salt said. The attack was unbelievably traumatic, but at the end of the day, it's highly unusual to essentially lock an 11-year-old up for life. Yeah, but an 11-year-old doesn't generally stab their best friend in a thought-out, premeditated sort of way. So yeah, these are unique circumstances. That being said, if they think she's safe, Wisconsin, look, Mama Mo's not telling you nothing, but I would keep my head on a swivel, okay, if I'm in Wisconsin. Because apparently they're just going to let anyone out. Well, for 800 years or so, documents about King Arthur were hidden. Now, let's read the article to see where they hid them. In Meghan Markle's new book, In Spare? I'm just kidding. Newly discovered documents about legendary King Arthur were hidden in the unlikeliest of places for about 800 years. Historians recently unveiled a rare 13th century document depicting the tales of King Arthur and Merlin, and its survival is considered a bit of a miracle. The discovery was announced by the University of Cambridge on March 25th. The manuscript is part of, some sort of French language rendering of the story of King Arthur. I don't speak French, so it's in French. Now, Arthur has been depicted as a legendary Briton king for several centuries, though his existence is doubted by most historians. In 2019, the fragile manuscript was discovered in an unlikely place in a Cambridge library, tucked in as the binding for an old book. The manuscript has survived centuries after being recycled and repurposed in the late 1500s as a cover for a property record from the Huntington Manor in Suffolk, owned by the Vanek family of Hevingham. I have no idea where these places are, but Hevingham sounds like a cool town. Like, where are you? I'm Hevingham. And I was like, no, I like turkey, thanks. The It meant the remarkable discovery was folded, torn, and even stitched into the binding of bookmaking, so it was almost impossible for Cambridge experts to access it, read it, or even confirm its origins, the university said in a news release. Now, thanks to modern technology, including multispectral imaging, computed tomography, and 3D modeling, experts were able to scan and recreate a virtual image of the manuscript without risking any damage to it. Using mirrors, prisms, magnets, and other tools, the team at CHIL, or Cultural Heritage Imagining Laboratory, carefully photographed each section of the fragment. The hundreds of resulting images were then painstakingly reassembled digitally like a jigsaw to create a coherent image of the text. By manipulating the digital images, the team could simulate what the document might have looked like if it were physically opened. Each copy of this was unique as they were individually handwritten by medieval scribes, and fewer than 40 copies of this particular manuscript are known to exist. The Cambridge copy was written between 1275 and 1315. The text is written in Old French, the language of the court and aristocracy in the medieval England following the Norman conquest. This particular fragment belongs to the genre of Arthurian romances that were intended for a noble audience, including women, because we are allowed to read about romance and stuff, but not enough to, stir our immoral female hearts and stuff. But we were allowed to, read about King Arthur, just not about economics and science, because women. Let's see here. The university added the manuscript, tells 2 key episodes from the end of that particular kind of suite of books. So that's pretty cool. I mean, can't believe they used it as like a Trapper Keeper cover, but there you go. We can learn more about Arthur if you can read French. It'll be great. I mean, it's not my jam. But then again, they didn't have deodorant back then. What in the heavenly Hades is going on here? Well, not super political, but this is going to be headline news, so I figured I'd let you guys know about it here. A teen has been charged with unaliving his parents. He also planned to try to, take out President Trump, the FBI says. So there you go. This kid in the turtle suit. A 17-year-old Wisconsin, I'm going to need you to keep your eyes on a swivel for me and explain if there was why are you becoming the Florida of the Midwest, Wisconsin? Do we need to have like an intervention? So a 17-year-old Wisconsin teen is charged with unaliving his parents and also accused of plotting to unalive the president, according to an unsealed affidavit from the FBI. Now, last month, Nikita Kasp of Waukesha was charged with unaliving his mother, 35-year-old Tatiana Kasp, and his stepfather, 51-year-old Donald Mayer, also of living with their corpses for about 2 weeks. Now, officials were saying that he was also conspiring to, kill the president. The FBI accused CASP of conspiracy and attempting to assassinate the president and attempting to use weapons of mass destruction. Now, according to the FBI, officials found what they called a manifesto while they were searching for a device that belonged to CASP. The document called for the president's unaliving in order to instigate a war of between melanated people and non-melanated people, and sow chaos. So he really is the Manson that we didn't need right now. Now, Casp also disclosed his plan to others on TikTok and Telegram and identified himself as the follower of the Order of Nine Angles. 9 angles? What in the army of the 12 monkeys is this? This isn't even a Brad Pitt movie. What the hell? Which the FBI describes as a neo-hankety-clankety cult that advocates for the use of violence and, the isms to overthrow governments and modern society. Now, according to the FBI, CASP had allegedly partially paid for a drone with a dropping mechanism that could inflict harm by descending an explosive or Molotov cocktail or a very strong topical poison on a target. Now, the killing of his parents appeared to be in an effort to obtain the financial means and autonomy necessary to carry out his plan, the affidavit read. Casp was arrested on February 28th after running a stop sign while driving his father's Volkswagen Atlas in Waukene, Kansas, 800 miles away from his Wisconsin home. Now, the car contained his stepfather, Smith & Wesson, and Magnum, the victim's driver's licenses, and spent shell casings, according to the complaint. Yeah. The 17-year-old was initially charged with operating a motor vehicle without the owner's consent and theft of movable property before eventually being hit with 2 counts of first-degree homicide, 2 counts of hiding a corpse, theft of property over $10,000, and 2 counts of misappropriating IDs to obtain monies, according to Waukesha officials. Now, according to the FBI, Casp had shared his plans to unalive his parents with a classmate. Now, the teen appeared in court on March 27th, where it was revealed that his mother had been found in a hallway covered with blankets and a towel, while his stepfather was found on a first-floor office covered in a pile of clothing. Now, his attorneys did not immediately respond to any request for comment, so this looks like another layer. I don't know how far he got in manifesto land, but really, there we go. No idea what's wrong with people. I don't even know what to say with this headline after all of the stories that I just did in the beginning of this with, plane crashes. But a helicopter crash in South Africa was blamed on an unsecure, penguin. Like, this is normal. I don't know what to tell you guys. Unsecured penguin, do not fly. Always secure your penguins when you fly. The South African Civil Aviation Authority said that a low-altitude helicopter crash did not result in any injuries and was caused by an unusual passenger famous for its lack of flight experience, a penguin. I am not high enough, or there is not enough gummies in this. Make this make sense. The SACAA's incident report said that a pilot and 3 human passengers landed on Bird Island off the Eastern Cape on January 19th, and a passenger described as a specialist placed a penguin from the island in a cardboard box and brought it aboard the craft. You didn't even have like a kitten carrier for this penguin? The pilot conducted a risk assessment of the flight. However, he omitted to include the carriage or transportation of a penguin on board. The passenger riding in the front seat of the helicopter held the box containing the penguin on his lap, securing it with his hands, but he lost his grip just after takeoff, and the box slid into the pilot's cyclic pitch control lever. Why is the dude with the penguin sitting shotgun? Shouldn't a penguin be in the back seat? I just, for a friend. Like all the buttons are up there. The lever was pushed to the far right position, causing the helicopter to roll to the right and strike the ground with its rotors. The report said the helicopter, which landed on its side, sustained serious damage, but no human or penguin passengers were harmed. The lack of a secure containment for the penguin created a dangerous situation, and the absence of a proper secured crate meant that the penguin's containment was not suitable for flight conditions, the report says. Because every time you bring a penguin on, please make sure that they are altogether secured. Now, every one of us has ups and downs in our love lives, but a fellow YouTuber is having a bit of an upswing, so let's give it to her. 1,000-pound sister Tammy Slayton has revealed a new relationship more than a year after her husband passed away. So let's hope that she's finding some love, because you know what? Amy, you always made me smile. Or Tammy and Amy, you always made me smile. But you've been a bit of a hot mess for a couple years. So there's still something I haven't told my family. Amy Slayton's not the only one that's been seeing someone new. So have I. Tammy Slayton, 38, said in a People clip of the, TLC show's season 7 premiere, "I've been seeing someone for the past couple months and is going pretty well." In a sneak peek, Tammy snuck out of the house and got into her car as brother Chris Combs wondered where she went. "I think I want to approach this relationship different than I have in the past, so I haven't told my family because my family is going to have something to say about it," she said. "I think my family probably has more opinions than the world has assholes because they be farting so much." God bless you, Tammy Slayton, for making me have to read that. Tammy shared that this is her first relationship since her husband passed away, noting that the person she is dating is a woman. "A few years ago, I came out as pansexual, but after Caleb's passing, I just don't want to be with men anymore," she said. "I don't know how my family is going to react when I tell them I'm seeing a woman." Now, Tammy previously clarified her sexuality in January 2024 TikTok video while responding to a user wondering if she was a member of the LGBTQAI plus community. "I'm a supporter of everybody," Tammy said. "Well, I was saying I was pansexual, but I kind of stopped messing with guys after my husband passed, so I'm like a lesbian." Okay, well, there you go. Just in case you needed to hear it first, Tammy Slayton is a lesbian. You know what, ma'am? I don't care. Just if you're in love, you're in love. But why must it always be a train wreck with you? Flux, do you have any opinions? So yeah, everyone deserves love, whether they're gay, straight, trans, pan, bi, non-binary, or whatever. "I'm just a lover," she said. Now, Tammy had met her former husband in 2021 at a rehab facility, and the pair tied the knot a year later, with Tammy calling their nuptials the best day of their lives. "There was so much love in that room," she gushed to E! News in 2023. "I'm thankful that so many family members and our family from the rehab were able to come. When we had our first kiss, he leaned forward and hit the control switch and drove right into me, knocking me back into my wheelchair." Love. And it is a somewhat sad story that she did lose her husband. Her husband and she have both struggled with food addictions. So it really is sad that she lost her husband again to something that she is now fighting so hard to, overcome. I hope she's happy. I'm glad I'm glad I can watch her on the safety of YouTube, and, it's not my family. And In the best news to start your Monday, well, Diddy is being forced to use $1 cans of fish in prison as currency as he's waiting, his trial. So he used to, be dating J-Lo and now he's slinging mackerel to get some favors. And that's not a euphemism. There really are canned mackerel. It's not even canned tuna. Sean Diddy Combs, the disgraced music mogul who once had a net worth of $1 billion, is now using $1 cans of mackerel as currency as he rots in Brooklyn jail. I mean, it's no baby oil, sir, but what are you going to do? Now, Combs, 55, is being held at the Metropolitan Detention Center ahead of his sex trafficking trial, which begins next month. The famed rapper, once responsible for some of the biggest hits in the 90s and 2000s, now uses packets of mackerel, known as Max, available for $1 from the detention center commissary as a form of currency, the New York Times reported. Now, inmates at the infamous jail are allowed to spend up to $180 every 2 weeks using money that loved ones can place on their commissary funds. Now, at commissary, a six-pack of Snickers sells for about $5.95 and Cheez-Its for about $3.65. So those are some of the available snacks for him. It marks a far cry from the world of dripping opulence and luxuries that Combs once made central to his brand. Diddy is currently being held in 4 North, a fourth-floor dormitory-style unit to around 20 inmates, and often some of the most high-profile being held in that particular jail. Now, until recently, the convicted crypto fraudster Sam Bankman-Fried was being held in 4 North before his transfer. Government informants and former gang members who may be at risk of retaliation attacks in general population are also held in this secure wing. Now, compared to other sections of the notorious detention center, the conditions in 4 North are generally more lenient. A former inmate, Gene Borello, told The Times, "You've got nothing to worry about," the mafioso turned informant said. Inmates normally move freely around the unit, which has bunk beds, TVs, a microwave, and a gym. Correction officers can oversee multiple compulsory, daily check-ins with inmates, he explained. The bathroom has stalls, and inmates take their meals in a common area. While they don't have access to the internet, they can watch movies or listen to music on tablets that can be bought at the commissary, he said. Now, why is mackerel because ew, just ew. Now, Combs meets with his legal team frequently behind bars in a conference room just off the common area of 4 North, the Times reported. He was provided with a laptop without Wi-Fi so he could go through reams of evidence prosecutors have turned over ahead of his trial start date on May 12th. Now, that laptop can only be used between the hours of 8 a.m. and 3 p.m., however. Now, Combs' beard and hair, once dyed jet black, now has grays in it because hair dye is not allowed at the detention center. Although, certain toiletries and watches and radios can be bought from the commissary. Now, as a pretrial inmate, Combs still has to wear brown jail clothes. The prison canteen does have a rotating menu with lasagna or vegetarian pasta fazool on offer every second Friday of the month, served with spinach and salad. Now, visitors are allowed only on Tuesdays, and phone calls are tapped on 15 minutes each and can be monitored by the government. Now, despite these restrictions, Diddy's life in 4 North is far less punishing than it would be in other parts of, the detention center. Just being able to interact, play chess, talk makes a difference, all the difference in the world. Brad Rouse, a consultant to criminal defendants who spend a year in a dormitory-style unit, 1 floor below Combs, Combs's lawyers have raised no complaints over their client's conditions, but have objected to the monitoring of his communication by the government, as well as the search of personal notes he kept inside the unit. Spinach. Ugh. Yuck. Now, Combs has allegedly tapped into the allotted minutes of other inmates' phone privileges, and has tried to contact potential witnesses through three-way calling, according to prosecutors. Now, these modes of communication are common behind bars. His defense argued that Combs was denied, and Combs has denied the charges against him. But if you needed something to motivate you on your Monday, just thinking about P. Diddy having to, like, can out 17 cans of mackerel so he doesn't get his ass kicked every day, it's kind of funny. I needed it, y'all, especially when my entire sinuses feel like they're packed full of everything everywhere. So, a couple of housekeeping things. We are getting ready to roll on Karen Reed. So, I will still be doing mornings with Mo for the Karen Reed trial, but I will probably kind of keep it at 45 minutes. That way, you guys can still get mornings with Mo, and then I can send you over to Baker. I will be working with Baker on Karen Reed, and you guys, look at this notebook now. Look at this notebook. It's all Karen Reed. I'm going to write my own book. I just don't know what three things I'm going to use. Awesome, sass, and boobs. I don't know. Rack of Justice. Mo's journey into the justice system. But I definitely got that. That is a chunky notebook. I am intending to take notes this time. I am going to be really, really on top of it. Now, today, what we have planned on the Petty Express is in about an hour, we are going to do the closing statements for the Linda Sturmer case. Now, we do know that she was found guilty, but let's see the absolute dumpster fire that was the closings. Now, I do have to warn you that we will be dealing with Mr. Wolf Mueller, the douchey component of the defense, for 2 hours, but at least it's not Mr. Kelly, the slow McSlowtard, component of the defense. So I did try to do as much as I could to help you guys with that one. But have a wonderful, wonderful day if I don't see you on the Petty Express. If I do, I will be there in just a little bit. I'm going to rotate laundry and, do dishes. Don't be peanut butter and jealous of my glamorous life here. And I think that is all for today. So hopefully tomorrow we will start Karen Reed. I will have my, handy dandy notebook of How Long to Die in Cold, and we will be ready to go. So thank you guys for joining. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to others. But have a sassy mouth and carry a can of bitch fire, because kindness no longer equals doormat. Goodbye, you guys.